Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are still filming in Jeju in South Korea, and we're going to try another brewery from the island, but it's one of the breweries that apparently is the biggest by volume, or one of the biggest by volume here in South Korea. So we're going to try my first beer from Jeju Beer Company, and this one is the Jeju Wit Ale, which comes in at 5.3%, and this is another beer that I picked up at Josie's bottle shop over on Hyokji Beach. So I do recommend you go and check this one out, and she told me this one is a pretty good beer as well, and you know, the Magpie beers that she sold me also were pretty damn good. So make sure you check out the link to her Facebook page in the description below, and check out the shop visit video that I did as well. She's a really nice little girl actually, and she knows a hell of a lot about beer. She's the largest total dealer by volume in South Korea from what I gather, so quite impressive actually, a really impressive selection of Danish and American beers there, but I'm looking forward to trying something a little bit more local from here in Jeju. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that hopefully I can do in the future from Jeju Beer Company. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the South Korean beers that I'm going to review for you. That's going to be added to hopefully a little bit more regularly over the next little while, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Jeju Beer Company then. So Jeju Beer Company can be found in Hallim on Jeju Island in South Korea, and this brewery, as I mentioned earlier, is an affiliate of the Brooklyn Brewery from Brooklyn in New York over in America. So Brooklyn Brewery were apparently approached by Hyuk Kim-moon and some partners back in 2013 about his dream of opening up a craft brewery in Korea, which at the time was really just dominated by, you know, the large breweries brewing the big lagers and stuff like that, much like it was in Japan. But they also had you know, largely prohibitive and protectionist beer laws at the time, and they were only liberalised back in 2014, so a little bit later actually than things changed back in Japan. But the structure of the relationship between these two breweries is quite similar to Brooklyn's relationship with Nya Carnegie Brewery in Stockholm, and also AC Dals in Trondheim in Norway as well. So they chose Jeju as the location of the brewery in Korea because of the revered water source and also the natural beauty of the island. You know, it's pretty much the Korean Hawaii. It is very, very kind of picturesque and things here. But they hired a local brew team, if you like, that were taken to Brooklyn and trained by Garrett Oliver, the main man over at Brooklyn Brewery, and they launched their first beer in August of 2017, which was this guy, the Jeju Wit Ale. And the brewery boasts the largest craft brewing facility in South Korea at the current time, with an annual capacity of around 20 million litres of beer. But apparently the brewing team is constantly rotating, so sometimes in Jeju they've got the brewers from Trondheim, sometimes they've got the guys from Stockholm, and sometimes they've got the guys from New York, and the Jeju guys go over to all these facilities and brew different things over there as well. But apparently the brewing team are really focused in Jeju on producing things using local ingredients and stuff like that, so you will find some really interesting beers coming out of this brewery. At the moment they've only produced around 8 different beers according to Untappd, so that's as of July 2019, but I'm sure they'll add more to that in the fairly near future. And the two main beers that they sell in cans and bottles and stuff like that, the other one is the green one, they are both types of wheat beer with different fruits and things from what I can gather. But yeah, it should be a really interesting one. It's going to be interesting to see how this brewery kind of progresses over the next little while, because I've tried some of the Nya Carnegie Brewery beers from Stockholm, because we get those fairly regularly through the small partiers and things like that, and Systembolaget back at home. So yeah, I'll be curious to see if we start to get some of these beers over in Sweden as well. This is probably one of the first craft breweries that's going to start exporting. Maybe Magpie might be the other one as well. So really curious to see how these guys progress over the next little while, and I'm very curious to see how this particular beer tastes. But if you want to learn a little bit more, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. That was all the information that I was able to find on Jeju Beer Company, in fact. So do let me know in the comments section below if you find any other interesting articles and stuff like that. It's always great, as I say, to hear from you guys that are watching the videos and stuff like this. And if anyone's watching from South Korea, do let me know your favourite beers and breweries and stuff like that in the comments section below as well. But yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So it does tell you a little bit of stuff in the back in Korean, but you know, I can speak a decent bit of Japanese, but Korean really isn't my forte. It would be really interesting to learn it, and I was at one point able to read the Hangul. I need to refresh my memory on that a little bit, but really nice artwork on this one. I do like the Jeju Beer Company's badge actually. You know, you've got the volcano, the Jeju volcano, which is in the middle of that, and of course you've got a nice little bit of water imagery there as well. As I say, that is what Jeju Island is famous for, as well as mangoes and oranges and stuff like this. So yeah, really nicely presented can. This one, 5.3% alcohol, and it comes in, it's in a half-litre can this, but you can get it in bottles, and I think you can get it in little 330ml cans as well, and you can find it in the convenies. And there, of course, you can see the Brooklyn Brewery symbol on this one, because like I said, it is a partner brewery, and you've got a little bit of braille on there as well for the blind people, so that you can enjoy the beer as well. So yeah, let's get it out then, and we'll get on with the tasting. I'm curious to see how this guy turns out. Oh yeah. Well, first off, we can see that this beer definitely looks the part. So yeah, we'll leave the last little bit of it in for the moment. But yeah, as you can see, and as you would expect from a wit beer, this guy's poured a really bright goldeny yellow colour. It's pretty much completely opaque actually, which is what you would expect from this particular beer style. There's a solid finger and a half of quite a bumpy white head on this one actually. I've noticed most of the heads on the beers here are a little bit bumpy. I'm not sure if it's this glass that I'm using, but you know, it does it does look pretty nice, and nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its aroma, or its appearance rather. That lovely big bright yellow colour that you would expect from a wit beer, be it Belgian or a Hefeweizen even from Germany. But yeah, really nice looking beer, this one. So let's take a closer look at that aroma and just see how we get on. Not much carbonation visible in this one. That's the other thing I should say about this. Just one or two big bubbles kind of clinging towards the side of the glass there, but you know, overall looks pretty nice, and as I say, nothing overly surprising about its appearance. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Ooh. So yeah, straight away with this one, you're going to get that nice kind of subtle wheaty character. I've always found the Belgian wits are a little bit less kind of punchy, if you like, when it comes to their aroma compared to the German Hefeweizens and things like that. So with this one straight away, you can smell a little bit of the more doughy yeasty quality out of this one, but the wheat is a little bit less pronounced in my mind. You can tell that this one is kind of pushing the yeasty notes out of there a little bit more. So a nice doughy kind of yeasty sort of thing, a little bit of a peppery quality in there as well. It does have just that little bit of a kind of spicy note, maybe even a little bit of a kind of coriander or something too. But yeah, definitely a little bit of coriander in there, I think. But it does have a good element of fruitiness to it. I want to say there is a little touch of an orangey quality to this one, which is kind of interesting. And like I say, it's Jeju Island is known for its tangerines and its mangoes. And to be honest, the interesting thing is I'm getting both a little bit of mango and a little bit of tangerine note out of this one, which is kind of interesting. It does come across as quite a juicy wit beer in terms of its aroma. And another thing as well is if you actually add fruit to the beer, what it does is it tends to suppress a little bit of the bitterness around the edge of the tongue. I always find that if you add fruit into a beer rather than extracting the fruit flavours from the alpha acids and the hops, what you always get is a little bit of a wetter feel around the edge of the tongue. So we should be able to tell with this one when we try it. In fact, it didn't say too much on the website about this particular beer. But with this one, to me, it smells like quite a juicy, fruity wit beer when I think about the other ones that I've tried before. So yeah, nice little bit of a wheaty note underneath it. The wheat to me kind of comes across as being quite smooth. Some of the wheat can actually come across as being a little bit sweet depending on the beer. I found that a lot in New England IPAs recently. But on the hoppy side of things, I think there's a little touch of, there's a little touch of earthy and herbal quality in there. Definitely a nice little bit of a floral aromaticity, but really not too pungent actually. It leans more towards the kind of grassy side of things. I'd be curious to know what hops they would use for this actually. Would they use traditional Belgian hops since it's a Belgian style of beer? because the Belgian hops, in fairness, can come across as being a little bit earthy. Belgian hops, in my experience, have always been a little bit earthy and herbal, like English hops, but they also have a little bit of that German noble quality when it comes to the grassy and floral side of things. So I do suspect they might have used a little bit of Belgian hop in here, to be honest with you. There's almost a little bit of a kind of soapy quality to this beer. In terms of its aroma, I don't know how otherwise to describe it, but it comes across, the smell of this reminds me of some of these hand soaps and things like that I've found used in different places in Asia. It does have just a little bit of a soapy aroma to it, which is kind of interesting, but I mean, it does have pretty much everything you'd expect of this style in terms of its aroma. And it does come across as being quite nice and juicy and inviting, and the more I sugar it up a little bit, the more some of that earthy kind of herbal note starts to push its way out of the beer, along with some of the kind of almost coriander type qualities. It's almost got a little bit of a vegetal quality to it, this one as well. So yeah, interesting aroma that. So hopefully it kind of shows up quite well in the flavour. So let's get stuck into this one then and just see how we go on. This one is the Jeju Wit beer from Jeju Beer Company in Hallim, here on Jeju Island in South Korea. Thank you again to Josie for pointing me in the direction of this beer. Let's get stuck in. Sanju, Skål, Gombe. Yeah. That's pretty good actually, I have to say. It does have a nice little bit of bite to it. And it does taste quite different from any of the other wit beers that I've come across before. I do suspect it has a little bit of fruit added to it, to be honest with you. I wouldn't be surprised just in the way it's kind of coming across actually. I'd be very curious to know that, so if you do happen to know about that, let me know in the comments section below. But this is a nice wit beer. It reminds me, it does have the same kind of vibe about it, to be honest, as the likes of the 1000 watt, if I remember the name correctly, from the Carnegie Brewery. It does have that same sort of bite to it, if you like. So it's always interesting to see that seems to travel between Brooklyn and Trondheim and Stockholm and now Jeju as well, actually. So yeah, really interesting that actually. So let's try and break this flavour down a little bit and describe it properly. So straight away with this beer, it comes in, it does have a good little bit of impact to it. You'll feel a nice kind of citrusy bite with this one straight away. But soon that kind of, it sort of gives away a little bit, and then you start to get the smoother kind of wheaty notes coming out of this one. You can feel those just forming the linchpin of the beer, and it is quite a smooth wheat rather than being overly sweet. In the centre of your palate you can pick out some of the more doughy, bready, yeasty notes that you would expect of a Belgian beer. Belgian beer for me is always about the yeast, and as the middle of your palate dries out a little bit, you start to get a little touch of a kind of a sort of coriander, spicy quality coming out of this one, which is really nice. Yeah, this one, it's one of these beers. It's definitely not one of the more kind of punchy wit beers and things that you're going to come across, but it does have a really good kind of blend of flavours, and I'm starting to find that with the Korean beers actually. It is all about how the flavours kind of blend together, and they're not overly sort of punchy. And I guess in the early days, I mean, if you think that the beer laws were only liberalised in around 2014 in Korea, much like the case was with the Hong Kong craft beers that I was reviewing for you, it is cool just to see the approach that they're taking to the beers. And of course, in different countries you start to notice different little traits about what drinkers like. So there is a good little bit of a sharp fruity character to this one, but at the same time the malt base generally is quite, is just quite relaxed in this, and it's all about how these different flavours and different components of the beer come together. But I do like this one. To me, I'll give this one a thumbs up. So thumbs up to Jeju Beer Company on this one. It's an interesting beer, this, and quite unique, I think, within the style. But that said, I don't drink too many of these. I need to actually review a few more Belgian wits for you on the channel. So yeah, there is an element of that kind of coriander, slightly spicy quality that I was talking about too. So it's and I'm finding that the further you go into the aftertaste with this, it does sweeten up a little bit. There's maybe even a little bit of a touch of kind of biscuity flavour actually coming out in the middle of the palate there. So, and I mean biscuits in the sense of cookies. I'm not sure whether South Koreans are more, more in tune with American English or, European English or whatever. But it does have a little bit of that almost biscuity, cookie kind of flavour coming out in the middle of the palate as well. So a really interesting blend of things going on in the malt base there. On the hoppy side of things, if we just go out towards the edge of the palate, there's definitely a little touch of an earthy quality and a very slight herbal thing there in the back corners of the tongue. Definitely nowhere near as pronounced as you might expect from the aroma. It really does come out quite a bit in the aroma, but not so much in the flavour. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you've got a nice little bit of a floral aromaticity there, a little bit spicy almost on the front corners of your palate, and then round the very front curve of the tongue it's just a little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say. But you can feel a little bit of a fruity quality just kind of pushing its way back on the IBUs. Like I said earlier, I do find that if you add fruit into the beer, it will push back on the IBUs a little bit and just suppress them. And yeah, the very edge of the kind of curve of my tongue, to be honest with you, it does come across as quite wet. So I wouldn't be surprised if they have added some tangerines and a little bit of mango in here, and that's the main kind of the main fruity notes of the beer as well. You can feel that around the edge of your tongue, but if you go behind the front curve of your palate, that's where you get that little oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters will push their way out of the beer. And for me, it does have a little bit of that kind of it does have a little bit of that lemony sharpness that you would always get. I always find that you get this nice lemon quality coming out of wit beers, but it definitely has a bit of a tangerine mango edge to it as well. So overall, this one is a really kind of interesting beer. I don't think I've had a wit beer quite like this one. The way all the different flavours go together is definitely one of the kind of highlights of this beer. But I think they've done a pretty good job of this actually, and I do look forward to seeing what they do over the next little while. When I had a look through the Untappd thing, there was an IPA there. There was one or two wit beers. I think there was I'm sure there was a dark beer in there as well when I had a little quick look through it, but the only two that they have released just now are the Jeju Wit beer, and they have one that has a Korean name that's gone straight out of my head, but it's the one with the green label, and I think that is some sort of wheat beer as well, if I remember correctly. And it must be interesting, maybe they grow a little bit of wheat here, and that's why they've kind of chosen this, because they did say they wanted their beers to use local ingredients and stuff like that. So yeah, an interesting beer this one, and if you get the chance to try it, have a go at it. If you enjoy the style, I think you will quite enjoy this one, because it has everything you'd expect, but it just has a little bit of quirkiness to it as well. I think that's probably a good way to just to sum up this beer. And as I say, it's always very cool to try things from different from different parts of the world. I'm starting to get a feel of what South Korean beer is going to be like actually. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, I would say this one's probably a mid-bodied beer. Yeah, so carbonation for me is, it does have a little bit of crispness to it, this, and when you're in a sort of hot, slightly humid environment, if you like Jeju, that is needed. You do need that element of drinkability to your beers here, because they're supposed to be refreshing. Overall, I'd describe the mouthfeel of this one as being, quite smooth. It's got a good little bit of it's kind of crisp and smooth at the same time. There is a little bit of weakness, kind of sweetness in there, but really that's kind of quite minimal. There's a good little bit of IBU to this one. I'd estimate that this one is maybe around sort of 30-ish IBUs. I think it's somewhere around there, maybe 35 at a push, because it does have a little bit of bite in the beginning on the impact. But yeah, malt base has a good little bit of smoothness in there, a little bit of dryness and spiciness to it as well, which is kind of interesting. It does dry out the further you go into the aftertaste, but like I said, a little touch of sweetness in there as well. Good little bit of bitterness from the hops, like I said, I think around 35 IBUs, and some interesting kind of notes from the fruity side of the beer as well. But overall, a really quite interesting beer, this one, and I'm glad that I was able to review this for you. I look forward to trying a few more from this brewery, and from other South Korean breweries indeed over the next little while. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This is the Jeju Wit beer from the Jeju Beer Company here in Hallim. here on Jeju in South Korea. It's been really cool to review this one for you, and hopefully you guys enjoyed my take on the beer. So yeah, as always, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Jeju Beer Company as well. And yeah, hopefully I'll catch you with some more beers from these guys at some point in the future. I'm not sure how easy it's going to be to find others, but I hope you enjoyed this one, and I will catch you guys very soon. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you very, very soon. The Jeju Wit Ale from Jeju Beer Company on Hallim here on Jeju in South Korea. Until the next time, Slanja just now. Catch you guys later. Slanja, Skull, Gombe.